Now that we've trimmed out our primers, the next step we want to do is use some tools in CLC Genomics Workbench to help us better identify indels and structural variants. So the tool we're going to use for this, as you could probably guess, will have something like indels and structural variants in the title. So here it is for variant detection, indels and structural variants. And we're going to add this module on here. Now, for the purposes of SARS-CoV-2 sequencing, at least in my experience in a lot of the sequencing projects I've looked at so far, indels and structural variants aren't a large percentage of the variants that you're going to find. The vast majority of the variants that I've found in this sequencing have to do with substitutions. So finding indels is a little bit less frequent, and I haven't seen any structural variants at all, but we'll include this for our for completeness. So for this track, you could see that what you're going to input for this module, it needs a reads mapping or reads track. So we're going to remove that from there, and we're going to input that in there. And then we can look at the configuration parameters. And for now, we're going to leave everything at default. But what we will do is look at the help briefly here, and where it has a little bit of a description on why we're doing this. And so if you read along with me, you can see that this tool is designed to identify structural variants such as insertions, deletions, inversions, etc., and that it's going to rely on information derived from unaligned ends. So if you have a read that's mapping and it doesn't map along the full length and it has a, kind of a dangling end, that might be an indication that you have an insertion, deletion, or a structural rearrangement there. So we input that in like we just see. And then there's multiple outputs that you can get from this also. So I might have closed that help a little prematurely. And let's open this up a little bit wider so we can see. And move over to what our outputs are going to be. And right here, this describes the 4 outputs that you can receive from the module, which is the structural variants, the indels, the breakpoints, and the report. Now, the main things that we're going to be concerned with are the structural variants and the indels, because we will import these in our next step into preparing a guidance variant track to help with local realignment. But this gives, once again, the help gives a detailed description of everything that you're going to find in each one of these outputs. And the first time that we're going to run this, we'll output everything. And so once again, we're going to accept the default, and then we're going to define each one of these as an output. So they'll be at the top level of the results directory. These other outputs are in their respective folders. Okay, so let's save this. So File, Save As. Put it into our workflows directory, and this will be step 5. Indels and structural variants. Okay, that's set up. Validation. We're going to run this. We're going to use the reads from before. Next, that genome, those primers. Going to save it, and once again, create a new folder. Step 5, indels and And what I'm going to do kind of from this stage on out in these tutorials is running this, each one of these workflows is going to take longer and longer. So I'll pause the video while it's running and then just pick up when it's done. So here I'm going to say finish, and it has started running, and I'm going to pause and we'll pick up when it's done. Okay, it's finished now, and let's go into our results. So here's step 5, indels and structural variants. We have the QC and the reports, but then here is Um, those four outputs. Now we're only going to be really interested in the indel invariants that are going to be imported in. So if we just look at the indels, you can see that's a track with some potential indel locations, which may or may not stay that way once we do our new local realignment. And here's some potential structural variants, but once again, this information is going to be fed into our local realignment to improve things. We have a report here. But once again, we're not going to use this report for much of the workflow that we're working on, and potential breakpoints. Okay, so this ran fine. We're not going to use the breakpoints reports, but we're going to move next onto the guidance variant tracks. So see you in the next video. Thanks.